Has your church ever sent someone out? Now, I didn't say kicked someone out. I'm talking about sending them out into a ministry or to a mission field to be able to serve the Lord. Good morning. I'm Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Friday. And as we look at the New Testament church as an example of what our churches should be doing, we come to Acts chapter 13, where the church was obedient to send out some from their congregation. Verses 2 and 3 says, as they ministered to the Lord and fasted, the Holy Spirit said, now separate to me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them. Then, having fasted and prayed and laid hands on them, they sent them away. Now, this was an exemplary New Testament church. Barnabas had first come here to Antioch and began teaching. He drew in some other great teachers. Saul of Tarsus was one of them, by the way. And as they grew here in their faith, they began to realize a great need outside their church. Now, so many churches today are so inwardly focused. They don't see a dying world outside their congregation. Or perhaps they don't see it as their particular problem. The verses say here, as they ministered to the Lord. Now, we have read and believe that God finds it much easier to steer a moving vehicle. First of all, we have to get started doing something, and then if the Lord wants us to do something else, He can direct us, but we have to get started in the first place. And it's also noteworthy here that they were fasting and praying. I believe that fasting is a great opportunity, not only of self-denial, but to show God how serious we are about what we're praying about. It's a way to seek His will and His direction, perhaps even seeking His blessing as we fast and pray. So as they prayed, the Holy Spirit of God spoke to them. Now, I'm sure that He didn't speak out loud. This was probably an inward burden that they had as well as Paul and Barnabas. But He said, separate Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them. Now, I'm sure Barnabas and Saul had been praying about this just as the church had. They had felt God's moving just as the church had. And all they needed was this support group, which their local church provided. Now, anyone going out to minister like Paul and Barnabas need a support system. That's what our churches are called to do today. They needed a loving church to provide for their material needs, maybe some offerings in order to help them with their journey and the expenses of it. They needed a congregation of believers that are in tune with God's will and His work so that they could pray for their direction as they go, pray for their protection as they travel, even pray for their wisdom in this new ministry. So they sent out these first two as missionaries, and of course the rest is history. This is the beginning of the New Testament church really growing out into a world that was lost. Now, how attuned to God is our local church for a ministry that He is seeking to start? Have we trained up our young people to be responsive to His call? Are we giving them opportunities to serve even now so that they'll see what it's like to serve the Lord and want to do even more? Are we a people that are supportive of the Lord's work around the world? You know, God needs missionaries everywhere. Every field that we have in Free Will Baptist is craving new workers and calling for others to come over and help them, much like the Macedonian call that Paul heard during his ministry. And we, as Christ Church, are responsible today to send them into these fields of service. So let's make sure that our church is a sending agency with a burden for the world around us. And let's keep training young people to fill those positions that are so needed in mission fields everywhere.